All right, the S&P 500, the Nasdaq 100, that's what we're discussing here on the day. And as we jump in here, we really look at the S&P, and that's what I kind of want to focus on today is some of these stocks I'm looking at and ultimately how we ended this week. I wasn't able to put out a video yesterday. So really quick, let's jump into it. So you can see previous all-time highs here established in July. And ultimately, we're still mounting that level, right? Higher lows all week. You're mounted over that level so far. You know, what you ultimately would like to see is that break, the retest, and continuation, okay? And so you're coming in that level, you're bouncing, and then we end the week there. So obviously we would have loved to, see a week, close the week a little bit higher, maybe even above that previous high here. But ultimately we're holding that previous high that we really were watching on higher time frames. Those are things that you need to be paying the most attention to. And so the biggest thing I want to say right now is it's hard to flip to a bearish thesis when you're moving like this, right? If you're making structurally higher lows and higher highs, you are bullish. Like, there's no other definition around it, especially here in the S&P 500. Now, I don't want to be biased, so let's jump to every index. You have the Dow here, for example, like you breaking out, higher lows, great push, came back down, end of the week. Very similar structurally to ES, except obviously you're much higher than your July highs, right? There, you're much higher than those levels, so very bullish here. And then you go into NQ, and I think this is where everyone has the question marks, right? This is the big area of like what the hell's going on, because you zoom out here at NQ and you're not even close to those highs yet. You're about at least 1,000 points off, right? About 1,000 points off from those all-time highs, and that's the real question right now. So structurally looking at this, I still wouldn't be quote unquote bearish based on a few things. As you can see, you're breaking out of that downtrend. So that's a good thing that you want to see. Now we also look at what indexes or what ETFs and sectors are moving the best. And if we look at since they announced rate cuts, you've seen a little bit of pressure into the primary Nasdaq stocks or ETFs and sectors, right? XLK, right? Tech bouncing up. This is what you want to see. Tech gets above 227. You look 227.4. You look great. Okay. Semiconductors has been a very large topic here on the channel. Breaking back up above 239, we knew we would get bullish. Above 255, 256, you're explosive, right? So those are big things that we've been tracking and watching here, right? But you're still locally, if we look at, XLK and we look at SMH, structurally looks very similar to the Nasdaq. Now, this is where things get more interesting. We look at other broad sectors that you could argue have benefited the most off of these rate cuts so far. XLF, the banking sector, moving very structurally, very bullish. Not at all-time highs here, but still making higher lows on the higher time frames, right? We go into XLI Industrials, all-time highs, right? Worth mentioning. Okay, we go to XLI or XLV Healthcare, right? Very strong, pushed up, made new highs, a little bit of a dip so far, but locally you just hit an all-time high at basically September 16th. Food for thought. You can run down the list. Communications, etc. Like there's a lot of these sectors that are very hot, that are moving very good, and so you can't jump to the conclusion of saying, okay, well, we're not bouncing back, we don't look great. In reality, most sectors are pushing into their local respective highs, except Tech and SMH. And is that a bad thing on SMH? And does that mean that the Nasdaq is inherently bearish? I wouldn't say so based on the overall trend and based on how you're structurally moving here. Now, going into this week, I will say, if you stay below 20,200, I could see us pulling back and making a lower low, and that ultimately would not be good, right? I wouldn't want to see that, right? But as long as we're looking at especially things like SPY, like most of you guys are trading SPY, right? You're seeing us push all-time highs, previous all-time highs breaking above here for September, July levels back there. Like, what are we talking about? You're clearly very bullish here on SPY. So there's no reason to flip that script yet. Now, in order for me to get bearish, I've said it plenty of times, you got to get below your previous all-time high down here, your July one at least. You break back below that, we can talk about getting bearish. But until you're below 565, you look very good broad-based in the market. Okay, Qs, you're trying to move, and Qs I think is a really simple chart here to look at instead of Nasdaq. Sometimes there's a little bit of a disconnect, and it can be easier to look at SPY, look at Qs. And I think Qs are very important to look at here because we talked about this earlier in the week as well. If you were by chance to get above 486, 487, you would push straight into your next level, which was 493. Go watch the previous videos we covered on that, right? And you did. You moved there almost instantly. So That is important to understand as well. So as long as we remain above or around the 487 level, I'm still bullish. We start breaking below 484, I could see this coming down to 478. Okay. Now, a few things, guys, before I go too far. Number one, just so you know, the newsletter does go out every Sunday. So if you want to get all of our free levels, free little watch lists throughout the week, it's all there for you for free. I'm not selling you anything. On the other side of this, if you are interested, there are spots available right now. It says there's 19. This is not correct. There's less. I think it's around 9 spots available. So we need to get that adjusted. But just to let you know, and you can actually do the text alerts if you are interested. That is just texting, no Discord access, just to let you know. So again, that is available right now. And if you're not following on Twitter, I literally haven't done anything on Twitter yet today, but I'll be doing more tweets, more charts over the weekend. I'm doing it while I'm watching football, of course. So make sure you check it out. We're going over some charts, things we're looking at here as well. So make sure you check it out. So again, that's what we're looking at right now. Now, let's go a little bit on some of the stuff that's happened over this week. And as far as things that we want to continue to see broad-based in the market, okay? Number one, you had the China stimulus push early this week, if you don't know. And if you really don't understand, go look at some of the Chinese names. BABA, that's where they were exploding. BABA has room in the 200 weekly SMA. We talked about that as well. But again, you have room in the 120. Pinduoduo was a very weak name, but bounced back aggressively. YY, everything in the Chinese sector was hot, right? Baidu, they were all very hot, okay? This happened because China basically, started cutting rates as well, dumping money back into the markets, trying to put a stimulus out there to reach their growth. If you don't know, China's market has been probably the worst globally, and kind of been kept under the rug, right? We know that, the UK, EU had a recession. We know America had a recession, but everyone just knows China's been trash. And so this is why Chinese stocks have been getting wrecked for the past basically 3 to 4, like going back to 2021. Like you look at this, BABA is being, I've said this plenty of times, BABA is probably one of the best value names out there. You have some risk, right? But you're, downside 57, upside back into 120. It was a good opportunity, but this is really just the tip of the iceberg. You start breaking 120, this thing could push back into 162, 180. But again, if you look at overall sales, the numbers that are coming out there, BABA is a great looking company financially. It's just a, tough government, right? Tough government. And so that's what's really happening there. And I do think as long as China continues this, and I don't think this is a one-time thing, it will continue strengthening these Chinese names. The second thing is people keep asking about the bond market. What's happening here? Again, the market was anticipating this cut, right? There was no one in the market that was saying, look, there's going to be no cuts. Everyone was pricing in. I've talked to mortgage brokers. I've talked about my personal loan, right, on my house, right? And everyone and their mom was expecting a 50 BP cut, specifically retail people, which is kind of crazy. I didn't expect it, but still happened, right? When you get closer to the next rate cut or the next meeting, I think you'll see another drop. I'm a little bit surprised you haven't seen more of a drop here on mortgage rates as of right now, but it's clearly just lining up with what's happening with yields. So I would definitely be looking at that. You need to get below 4% though on the 30-year yield, the 10-year yield as well, pushing back down, but you're still remaining below those local lows around 3.77 where you're projecting at currently. You want to see that push down to 3.3, 3.35. That's what we're looking at there as well. DXY, trying to find strength, but this is the real telltale sign that the dollar continues to weaken. The dollar continues to weaken. I think yields will follow suit. Dollar has support around 99.6. What I'm watching there. You're also watching what's happening with oil. Okay, oil continues to weaken, and this is another part of the story that even I've neglected is that oil kind of is breaking down and really operating below your 200 SMAs for the first time. Going back to 2020. Which is kind of crazy to think about. And then before that, you were in 2017, which is also crazy to think about. So what's happening there as well, which will continue to move this inflation data in the right direction, like we saw with PCE this past week. And I think PCE data pointed us in the right direction as well. People also into gold, you're at all-time highs. I can't really tell nothing to do with gold. You finally broke that high around 2070, and the rest is history. But I'm just covering just so you guys know. The other part here too, a very big risk on indicator here is Bitcoin. And I think Bitcoin's at a hot spot. Okay. You're clearly going to come test that, the downtrend here around 67K. I'm looking for that pretty immediately right now. You're above the 200 SMA. You start breaking above this, you start pushing to 70K. Over 70K, I think we push an all-time highs near. And I think the next all-time high push is damn near 100K here on Bitcoin. The interesting part here with Bitcoin is you would look at something like Ethereum, what's happening broad-based. Ethereum's lagging. It's clearly lagging. Once Ethereum gets involved here, that's when you see the meme coins, all coins go crazy as well. Still my top coin, I'll continue to say it is Solana. I think this thing's going over $200 and running into $300, but do what you want with that as well. I'm just trying to let you guys know what I'm watching for and looking for. So again, things across the board right now for me. Now tomorrow, I'm going to do more of a rundown of stocks I'm liking. So if you want to catch that part of it, we'll do that tomorrow. But I want to make that very clear right now. I didn't want to spend this entire video doing both sides of it. I'll make a video tomorrow. I'm trying to keep the videos a little bit shorter as well here. So things that I'm watching right now. Overall though, despite the pullback we saw intraday here, Tesla, very strong, pushing into 275, 266. NVIDIA, this was a little bit of a shocker. But again, you're potentially doing my favorite chart pattern that's out there right now, and it's the bump and run. And basically what you look for is that downward trend line or upward trend line, whatever you're looking for, the breakout, the retest, and then the push back in. Hopefully get that push into 130. Very bullish and optimistic there. We go look at even broader numbers or stocks like Apple, which kind of had some bad data where it come out, right? Higher lows, right? Bouncing up, continues to hold 224. Go look at Meta, right? I'm just going broad based across the market of, we want to say that Nasdaq looks weak, but let's look at a lot of these big names here. Meta, all-time highs basically. AVGO, Broadcom, break and retest of your key level, 173.5. Absurd if we really look at this. Netflix, very bullish at highs. You can go on and on this list, right? And I'll just say, the market looks very good. When will I get bearish? When you start breaking below some of these levels. If SPY gets back below 565, you're bearish. You look for some downside short term, okay? Qs, you start breaking below roughly 484, then 477, we can talk. But until then, there's no reason to be the random bear by yourself. Discord link is down below, all the information. Have a good one, traders. I'll see you tomorrow.